Would you recommend working with us?
Absolutely, without hesitation. The support is amazing, and it really feels like a partnership. Working with Senis AI has been great. We really feel like we have a strategic consultant available to us, always willing to meet regularly with us, help us understand this product, help us understand the data, help us figure out what we should actually be looking for. The implementation process was smooth because we really had that support from Senis AI, bringing that data in, working together through challenges we had with the API. So we really feel like we have a partner in our strategic growth of the association. When you're dealing with very fragmented data sets that have been moving around from one platform to another, it's challenging.
And what would you say to someone who's considering working with us?
So I think this is really going to help propel associations into this next phase of technology, and everyone's talking about AI. This is a great way to utilize AI as an overlay on your data. And, I think it really helps level the playing field for small associations, because this is finally an opportunity where you can scale up without having to staff up commensurately. You may have budgetary restrictions that make that impossible. Now you have tools that bring you similar value without having to have that overhead cost. So I think it's a game changer for small associations, especially, but really associations of any scale. I would highly recommend taking the step and moving forward with it. What is more important than understanding the data that your association has? There are just so many growth constraints when you don't have a complete grasp of the data and all of the patterns and insights underneath that data. So I would fully recommend taking the leap and moving ahead with that. I think you'll be very surprised.
What would you say to an association that's on the fence about using AI?
Embrace the technology. The efficiency unlocks, the insights you're going to glean. I think you will be very surprised at what you will take away from this technology. And it's not going anywhere. Resisting the internet early on did not work out well for anyone. There's so much momentum in this space. Embrace it. And if you have competition, being a little bit early is going to yield massive dividends, I think.
What brought you to the side to work with Senis AI?
Not feeling like we have the tools we need to harness all of the insights that are in our data, and knowing that that is really a prerequisite to any of the strategic objectives we have. And with Senis AI, having the AI assistant packaged in with customizable visual dashboards, that combination was incredibly appealing to us. Having that reduction in the fragmentation of our analytics, we know we have to be a more data-driven association, and this allows us to do that. I'm Drew Frazier. I manage tech for VCIA, the Vermont Captive Insurance Association. We are a small remote team based out of Vermont, but servicing a large global industry. So data is extremely important to us. Growing to meet the demands of that industry is extremely important to us. Like a lot of associations, the way we've interacted with our data up until now has been very one way. We're working within the constraints of AMS platforms. I think it's really best to just let the AMS platforms do what they do best, be that single source of truth, just be a database. But in terms of being an analytics dashboard, software that's unlocking insights, and it doesn't work very well. So moving from this very list-centric mode of getting reporting and moving into this two-way conversational interaction with data, unlocking these deeper patterns and finding what does that actually mean in context with the rest of your data. So I think the paradigm shift is being empowered to go much deeper into the data than we ever have before. So having conversational interaction with our data is a major game changer. It allows us to interact with the data in a completely new way and extract meaning that we weren't able to get simply query-based understanding of our data. So that was the primary challenge. Additionally, the fragmentation of data off various platforms made it really hard to have a single location for analytics and insights.
And how many people are in the team who are writing those queries the old way?
That data. VCIA is a technical team of one. So most of the data requirements that staff needs comes through me, making me a bottleneck for everybody. So we really need a way to empower staff to have more accessibility with the data, and that ultimately frees up everybody's time, unlocking a lot of efficiency there. So it's been very clear for a long time that like we need to empower staff to be able to retrieve the data they need much more quickly and without having to go through, you know, hours and hours of training to understand how to work with a query builder when they may have no technical background at all. So this has been something VCIA has been struggling with for.
Drew, can you give me some specific examples of the kind of questions that you're being asked by the team?
Many years. So I get a lot of questions about what's happening in different parts of the country. How many members of, you know, this segment of our membership are in Chicago or in St. Louis? How many non-members are in these places who are also captive managers, for example? So more importantly, you know, we need to understand that in context of the rest of the data. And that's what's difficult to get through the AMS unless you're building multiple queries, bringing them into Excel. We're talking potentially hours of time getting the data, bringing it into a spreadsheet, parsing the data, working with multiple queries. This could be hours of time that can really be compressed into minutes with an AI assistant trained on that data. So having an AI assistant that can look at all of that and then give you those actionable insights is extremely helpful.
And what would the value be then if your team can just talk to the data?
The value is immense. You could quantify that by looking at the hours saved and calculating the labor time that you're not having to spend anymore. But I think it goes beyond that because you're also unlocking new insights that can actually drive membership growth. So not only do you have a huge efficiency unlock here, but you also have a flywheel of data-driven membership growth coming out of these insights and the accessibility of the data. I just think we're going to have staff that is much more knowledgeable about what is actually happening under the hood with membership and events and all of the operations we do.
How do you expect this to change the way different team members?
I think it's going to make everybody a lot more data driven, and I think it's going to change the way team members make decisions about their respective areas of work. Whereas we may have been relying more on instinct perhaps in the past. Now you have, and part of that might just be because getting the data you needed to validate some new initiative may have been hard to retrieve, or it may have been impossible to retrieve. Having access to more insights into that data is going to make people more data driven. And it's like having a consultant at your disposal 24/7 that can see all of the data, that can see more of the data than you can. So I really do think it's going to create much deeper expertise and understanding of the data for all team members who use this.
So you mentioned getting the data on can have a big impact on the organization. Does it impact on forecasting and modeling?
It absolutely impacts forecasting and modeling. If you're starting with incorrect data from the outset, then you may not be aggressive enough in some of your forecasts, or you might be too conservative.
So what does this do to board reporting?
This really helps with board reporting in that, again, the data is more accessible, making it easier for us to share information with the board. It allows us to build out more comprehensive board reports through the time saved in retrieving the data, and most importantly, contextualizing the data against other metrics that we may not have had before, instead of simply, again, providing a list of results, but we also have a list of actionable next steps that we may have gotten from the